Okay, good morning, everyone. I think we'll get going now. I can still see people trickling in, but I'm just going to give a bit of an intro at the start anyway, as usual, and then we can get started properly. Before we get going, I might just point out, anyone who's been following the series already will be used to the running order right now. We have a Slido for this session again. If anyone would like to log in, you can join at slido.com through the hashtag MOESC with Mission Ocean European Solidarity Corps, or otherwise by scanning this QR code. Let me see who's coming. Great stuff. So it's great to have you all here again today. This is likely our last session before the summer, and we apologize for having last week's webinar on behavior change postponed at short notice. We couldn't be helped, and we'll try and reschedule as soon as possible, possibly before summer, but likely in the autumn at this stage. So today is the final webinar in our series, or at least the final planned webinar in our series, planning for citizen participation in Mission Ocean Waters. And this one is on working with the European Solidarity Corps for Mission Ocean related initiatives. And just to give this a bit of context, again, here up in the top are the three Mission Ocean larger objectives in terms of restoring marine and freshwater ecosystems, removing plastic pollution from seas and waters, and making the blue economy carbon neutral and circular. And I've put down here the 10 main target outcomes taken from the Mission Ocean Implementation Plan in terms of supporting citizen participation with the mission. So today's webinar is all about this one. In all mission documentation and in the Horizon Europe Mission Ocean calls so far that we have, involving the European Solidarity Corps in projects has come up constantly. And so in terms of helping you get project funding over the next couple of years, or if you're smaller initiatives that find themselves challenged in terms of money or time to work with volunteers, then I think today's session will be very useful to you. So before we get into everything, before I introduce our facilitators for today, we might just do a quick Slido, and I'll just give you a bit of context to where we're coming from today. So in the beginning of our project PREP4BLUE, we did a needs analysis on how to increase citizen participation in marine and freshwater initiatives across the EU. And one of the questions that we asked is, what barriers prevent you from engaging with citizens? And you can see here that lack of funding and lack of time were the top two that came up. Then we also asked an open question. So this was kind of a rate 1 to 7. In an open question, what is your primary need in terms of engaging citizens? Number one theme that came up through the qualitative answers was time and money. They're the issues that people have. And so, this is the kind of context that the freshwater and ocean advocacy work takes place in, projects that we all work on. And so working with volunteers from the European Solidarity Corps will be one way to counter this over the years to come. So in terms of Slido, we might just start by getting some ideas or some attitudes within the group. If you look at your phones or wherever you're using this, how would access to a group of volunteers add to your current project or initiative? What could you do that you can't do right now if you had access to a group of volunteers to work on your project? And that might get us thinking. Good. Not a great start. You must have a very successful project. Help with communications. Yeah. Is there any on-the-ground work? Collect more qualitative data, absolutely. More time for outreach. Yeah. Idea generation, that's a good point. I mean, volunteers, in one way, it's a group to engage with activities, but it is in itself a way of engaging with the public is with access to a group of volunteers. Push for policy support, fantastic ideas here. More capacity for citizen science, absolutely. And you know, you might be able to engage with a different kind of group when you're sourcing volunteers from different places. Adapting materials to different languages, excellent. I'll share this list in the email after this because there's some really good ideas coming up here. Hands-on work. Okay, that's fantastic. Fresh brains, enthusiasm, more hands-on activities. That's excellent. Okay, thank you very much. And like I said, I'll share this. There's already some really good ideas there. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second there, and I'll pass the webinar to our first of two facilitators for today. I said that I might introduce them together now because they complement each other nicely, and then Suzanne will kick us off. So first of all, we have Suzanne Kavanagh. Suzanne's a Senior Support and Development Officer with Léargas, who are Ireland's national contact point for the European Solidarity Corps. She's worked with them for over 6 years, and in her role, she is tasked with coordinating funding opportunities and supporting organizations working with volunteers. Then kind of on the other side of the European Solidarity Corps, we have Paula Garcia Rodriguez here with us today. So Paula is a coach to volunteers with the youth organization Globers, and she herself began as a European Solidarity Corps volunteer, working on a number of different projects and fell in love with the work. And then she was involved in a project application called Marcius, which is an ESC funded project on marine protection and local development. She'll talk about that later. And now she works as a coach for volunteers on that project. So it'll be interesting to hear the two sides of this story, I think, today. So Suzanne, we might start with you. Thanks very much for coming to us today and for talking.
Yeah, no, thanks a million. Thanks for inviting me. Really excited to be here this morning and to share with you, obviously, around the European Solidarity Corps. I'm very lucky because I have a job that I love and I love this programme. So I'll just share my screen if that's okay. Let's start. Is that, you can see the screen?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So yeah, the European Solidarity Corps, it's not a great name because it doesn't say anything about volunteering in it. I understand that. But I suppose the idea of the solidarity piece is that young people are brought as volunteers with organisations. So organisations send and host volunteers to connect them with the work that they're doing, to help them develop and learn, but also to enhance the work of the organisations. So it's a mutually beneficial situation, so everybody gets benefits. And the idea then is that the programme then contributes to the EU's priorities of a greener Europe, a more inclusive and digitally safe society, a healthy recovery from COVID-19 with civically engaged young people. So they're the priorities. So you can imagine then that the opportunities that are available are quite broad. So the volunteers then it's a full-time activity, so which is great. So it means that you have access to these young people for between 30 to 38 hours a week for up to 12 months, which in terms of volunteering, that's great. You have that consistency, I suppose. And like I said, the scope of those projects are so broad. You're talking about cultural areas of culture, sustainability, health, and any kind of civic social activity. So it's great. It's a great program, and it's encouraging those young people to connect, I suppose, with issues on the ground, which is obviously very connected to what they're doing. So the other great thing is that volunteers can take place in the country, in a country other than the country of residence. So this is cross-border. So international volunteers come to the country and they participate in their activity, or they can also be in the country of their residence. So you could, for example, have an Irish volunteer under the programme working in an Irish organisation. So this obviously was very useful during COVID, but it's always been a feature of the programme, which is great. And the volunteers then must be between the ages of 18 and 30. So then the different types of volunteering. So these volunteers can come individually and they contribute to the daily work of the organisation. And the idea then is that they build solidarity with the community that they're working in, and they return then with this idea of solidarity to their own community. Like I said, they can be 2 months to 12 months, but actually a little bit of big breaking news. Next year it'll be 2 weeks to 2 months, which is fantastic. And then they, like I said, they can be cross-border, so they can be international volunteers traveling, or they can be in country. You can also have a volunteering team, which again is a very unique idea, I suppose, in terms of the program. So you can have a group of volunteers, minimum 5 up to 40 volunteers volunteering in teams. They must be international. However, 75% of them can be in country. So you could have a group of in-country volunteers, bring over an international group of volunteers and work on something very short but very impactful. They can be carried out a number of times, and they result obviously in a very immediate impact, and they can be for 2 weeks to 2 months. So something really that's very used, that's used a lot in Ireland actually, particularly during the summer. And then in terms of the budget, then what's covered is travel, project management, organizational support, inclusion support, pocket money, linguistic support, insurance, and exceptional costs. So I've just given you an example of what a budget would be here. So this would be for 2 volunteers coming to Ireland to volunteer for a year. So their travel is covered. You'll see there it's 275 by 2, which is 550. The organizational support then is a one-time payment of 225. So that kind of covers your application, and you get that per volunteer as well. The activity cost then is the cost per day per volunteer, so that's €32, and out of that then is covered their food and accommodation, and that's 22,424. The volunteers themselves then receive a pocket money, and in Ireland it's €7 per day. And then you then also receive support if you are working with young people who face barriers, and that's called inclusion support. So that's €11 per day in Ireland per volunteer. So you'll see there the total grant there is 37,600. I haven't included exceptional costs, but those costs are things that would be a barrier to participation. Again, things like visas, vaccinations, or passports or something like that, you know. So far this year, we've awarded 1.2 million to the volunteering projects. Last year, then we awarded a total of 1.7. So we've another, hopefully, deadline in October this year. So it's been quite successful. To come into the program, then you need a quality label. So it's through a single point entry, and all organisations wishing to take part in the program must hold a quality label. So even if you're not applying for a grant, but you want to host volunteers, you still would need a quality label. But the great thing is, once you receive that quality label, the full quality label, then it means organisations have access to a simplified grant application until the end of the programme, which is fantastic. So instead of writing a project every year, you're literally just ticking a box saying, yes, these are the targets, and this is what I'm going to do. So it literally takes 5 minutes. So we've had great responses to that, of course. For the quality label applications, then we have a rolling deadline, so we receive them all throughout the year. But for grant application, then we're hoping to have one in October. But I would probably, I would encourage you, if you're thinking of doing that, you look at February 2024 for your grant application. The quality label application takes a little bit while to assess and to turn around, so that can take up to maybe 12 weeks. So, is there any questions at all around that? I don't know if there's any in the chat or anything.
Yeah, I mean, so anyone who has a question at this stage can continue putting it into the Q&A. I have a few comments or questions, and actually there's also one comment here as well from Mariam. Hey Mariam, how are you? She says that she herself is familiar with the European Solidarity Corps and would like to see the age range rise to 35 years old if it was going in a new version. There's another question here, so from Sandra. Is any type of organization eligible for getting the quality label, or what are the minimum requirements there?
Yeah, so I suppose the thing is, it's so broad that they call it solidarity related activities, but basically it is any organization involved with addressing a need or an issue at the ground, at grassroots level. So it's those kind of organizations, and like I say, it covers all areas, so very broad. And we want it that way. We want the diversity of organizations, so that young people then have a diversity of opportunity, you know.
Absolutely. And just, I might just ask a kind of a bit of a further question there. Is there like a minimum, what constitutes an organization? Do they, for instance, have to be a registered company or nonprofit, or say have a bank account or whatever else?
Yeah, like they would be they would have to have a legal status, I suppose.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
But in terms of activity, yeah, it's those kind of things. Yeah.
And we have another question here from Pinar. So is it possible to have a volunteer not in the organization's home country? We are based in Austria, but we work at sea in the Mediterranean.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So yes. Yeah. So you can have, so what you do in terms of putting in an application for a quality label, you will actually outline all of the locations that the volunteers would be in. So say, because you could be a coordinating organization, so you might never see a volunteer, you might never have a volunteer on your premises, but you might have other volunteers dotted around the place. So you would have, and once you have the location in, and that's fine. Yeah.
Great stuff. And just maybe I might make a comment myself. I mean, as you were talking, I think it's very interesting when you think about, this kind of structure of working with volunteers and with young people through Mission Ocean, because the international, there might be an interesting way of designing a project with the international element. That, say, if you're looking at a whole of river approach, so if you take the Danube River, that you structure a volunteering team from source to coast along that river, and design a project that might work like that. So I think there's definitely interesting synergies there.
Yeah, we had a really interesting project with Cork City Council, who worked across different municipalities across Europe, and in reducing single-use plastic within their cities. And that was a whole kind of city approach across different municipalities and city council. So yeah, they definitely, and they're very, very, they're short. Like I think those volunteers were there for like 14 days or something, but it was amazing, the amount of work that they did,
Excellent. Yeah. Well, there's two more. I might just take the two quickly, and then we'll move on in the interest of time. So another one from Sandra. Do you cooperate with the Fair Future Generators program? If you're aware of the program.
No, I'm not aware of it.
No,
but I'll be interested to find out it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think this is for Pinar again. Is it acceptable to put a sailing route as locations, or would you put, location along that route?
It depends. So, okay. So if say for example, if the volunteer is carrying out activities on the actual vessel, that's the location. But if the volunteer was then, say, coming off that vessel and then being, I don't know, for example, an island, cleaning up the island or removing plastics or whatever, that would be the location. So yes, if it was going to be, yeah.
Brilliant. No,
and I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's where the activity will be based, I suppose, is what I mean. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, thanks. Okay, so we might just stop there for now, and I'll let you continue, Suzanne.
Great. Cool. So then the other interesting side of the Solidarity Core is a thing called Solidarity Projects, which is not confusing at all. But the Solidarity Projects are very interesting, because they're projects that are initiated, developed and implemented by a group of young people supported by organizations. So these are projects that are developed or designed or an organization can help young people to implement these projects. They're part-time, so they're not full-time. They can be from 2 months to 12 months. You must have a minimum of 5 young people in the group to do these. And again, they must be 18 to 30, but they're in country. So they participate in these projects in country. And the example budget of these then would be a group of Irish young people carrying out the project for 1 year. They get a project management fee of €5.95 by 12 months. So that's 7,140. But just to say that doesn't necessarily mean activity, like paid activity needs to happen during the month, So you could have a meeting, or you could have, a discussion with your coach or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have receipts for every month or like whatever, The coach then, the volunteers then can apply for a coach to support them in the implementation of the project. A coach then would they can now receive €241 for up to 12 days of the project. And again, this is really good in terms of areas that they might feel that they wouldn't be able to implement. Say, for example, if it is around dissemination or evaluation or whatever, or even things like managing the budget, they can have a coach for that. Or if they wanted something much more like, so say they needed an expert, somebody that's going to be able to give them the skills or the knowledge or whatever, they can bring that as a coach in as well. So it's a great opportunity. And then you can also apply for inclusion support. So in this case, I've put in 2,000, but it can't exceed 7,000. And for this project, then you'd have 12,032. Again, in terms of the topics and themes of these projects, they are very wide and broad, to a very kind of local issue to a very global issue. And it's once the young people themselves are motivated and want to participate, and you can see that in their application. And again, it's a very simplified application as well. Just to say as well, I was listening to what you're saying about the results from your survey there, David. The great thing about the Solidarity Corps as well is that the young people themselves register. They register online. They outline what they're interested in, what their skills are, where they'd like to go, where their availability is. And then it's like the Tinder, I suppose I call it, of the Solidarity Corps. They're matched then with those organizations. So you have access then to a pool of talented young people who are motivated or committed, like, so and that can be and recruitment of volunteers can be quite difficult as well. So like having that access to those young people again can maybe address some of those issues you were talking about there. So in terms of the deadlines then for the Solidarity projects, then we have one in October. And like I said, they're a simplified application, and they have lower thresholds than a usual application. And then we also have one again in February 24. So if you want to learn more about the European Solidarity Corps, you can contact me. And we also have what we call a project lab on the 12th of July in Dublin. And a project lab is so we take a high support approach. So it means that when you come to us, you might have a spark or kernel of idea. And through that project lab, we germinate that idea. And the idea is that when you walk away from the lab, then you have your project idea, you know what you're going to apply for, and then you come to our application clinic, and we support you then with the application clinic. So so you'll receive this presentation with the link then to if you want to register for that event. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't talk too long there.
No, absolutely not. Thanks so much. And it's great to hear about the opportunities and how to access them. If anyone else wants to put some questions into the Q&A for now, please do so, and I'll direct them at Suzanne, and or otherwise we can do that again afterwards. Pina, again, is that lab the Dublin event online, or Suzanne, or is that just in person?
It's in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
But I can send, if you want, I can send you some materials and stuff like that.
Oh, that would be fantastic, and I'll share them with the group.
Yeah.
And again, afterwards we'll share. I mean, so I presume, as with European programs, there's probably a national contact point in each state for the European Solidarity Corps. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll share the links to the website after this as well, so that everybody knows where they should get in contact if they're interested in developing programs.
Yep.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. Thanks so much for all that information. For now, so I think, like I say, if anyone has any questions or thinks of them, please put them into the Q&A. And for now, then we'll turn to Paula. So Paula, I've already introduced. It's really nice to have you here, Paula, and we're really looking forward to hearing about your initiative or your project, Marcius. So you can give us a bit of an explanation.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you, David, for organizing this and introducing myself. I'm going to try to share the screen. So if you can tell me, is it okay? Can you see my screen?
We can. It's small. So I might just apologize to the audience. We've had an issue getting Paula onto the stream with her laptop. So what we'll do is after this, again, I will share Paula's slides. If they're a little bit small to see now, I apologize, but we'll share them afterwards.
It's a little bit small, right?
Yeah, it's okay. It's on the screen,
okay.
But yeah, I can share them afterwards anyway.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, so yes, as David said, like I started as a volunteer. I did my short-term volunteering, then I did team volunteering, then I did my long-term volunteering in a Spanish organization. I'm from Spain. And then I wanted to continue doing a PhD course. So now I have been a coach of this solidarity project called Marcius that I'm gonna speak to you about. I'm gonna put you like this as an example as how have we done to carry out this project, and also how to engage the local community, which is like one of the most important things. So, well, about Marcius, this is a solidarity project that has been written by us, by Glover's organization, but as Suzanne mentioned before, it's a local project. So what does that mean? That it's like other 5 local youngsters from 18 to 30 years old that they were like participating in other activities with us, like they already knew us and they wanted to do something. So even like they already like knew each other. So well, like they saw that there was like a need in our community. We are located in the south of Barcelona, so like just next to the coast side, the beach. And they wanted to raise awareness about the conservation of the sea and the beaches and the protection. And well, that's why we wrote this project. And the 3 pillars of this project of Marcius have been like, I'm gonna try to expand a little bit. The first one is citizen science. So we have been like contributed to the scientific work and research, but actually without like having the knowledge, like the scientific knowledge, let's say, but doing some tasks and then like sending all this information to other scientists that they can use in the research. So for example, here you can see that we have been like collecting data to send it to like microplastic research of the University of Barcelona. We have been also like taking away the invasive plants of the coastal dunes to conserve the area. Also, we have been participating in a project, a research about Posidonia, which is an extraordinary marine plant that we have around here. The second pillar is education, because I mean, like in every voluntary project, at the end, like the children and the youngsters, they are the future. So like it's needed to share all this knowledge. So one of the main tasks of the volunteers is to educate the population to use these tools at some point. Maybe like they want to start now, maybe they want to use it in the future, but I think like knowledge is the more powerful tool, and yeah, this is one of the like the main things we normally do as volunteers. And well, the first pillar is the community, which through local events and different activities, we have achieved, or we try to achieve, to engage the community to participate in all these activities with us, the volunteers, because if not, at the end, like nothing really makes sense. So, well, this is a bit about Marcius, but I want to tell you like more about like how to create an impact when you have like these volunteering projects going on your organization. And well, from our experience and from my experience like doing this kind of projects, I have established like 3 main things that are: the first one, joining forces.
Paula, can I just ask you, would
yeah.
you mind zooming like you were doing in the last one? That
Sorry.
worked really well.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Great, thank you very much. So, well, the first one I would say like it's joining forces. So it's true that this is what has worked very well for us, because maybe when we have tried to do like some activities on our own, okay, like you can achieve some let's say some achievement, no? You can get some achievements, you can arrive to some people, but at the end there will be like other organizations, there will be also like other people who are also like having the same goal as you, who wants to do like similar things than you. So at the end, like the more forces you join, let's say, with others, the more people that you're gonna arrive to. So yeah, the more impact you want to create, like the more people you should look around to join you. And the second one is to involve the community, because I mean, like maybe you detect a need in your area, but the community also needs to feel this need. They need to feel that they are part of it, and if you want to make a change, at the end, like they need to be involved. They need to be involved in this project. Also, like for the volunteers, is very meaningful, because when they see that they are taking some actions and the community is also participating, is very, they feel like very grateful for that. And the third thing would be like to create like projects that have like a long-term sustainability. At the end is very related with the other two, but like to make sure that when you finish your project, there will be something or someone or any kind of thing that will keep this alive, because this way will make like much more impact. So okay, so like how to join forces. This is again like something that works for us. It changes also like a lot, maybe like depending on like the location or like the country, but here where we are, this is how we work, and it works very well, and it's through exchanges. Okay, this is the way that at the end we build trust with others. We have tried to join forces with organizations, other organizations that have like similar goals to us. Here, like for example, as you can see, like we have like Surfrider, like Anneli, they are like organizations that are like fighting for the marine conservation. In this case, and also with public institutions, for example, like the public library or like public schools, and also very important with the town hall. It's not that easy to join forces with them sometimes, but I mean, it's very, very, very important. So, like for example, like I don't know, we started like exchanging like tags in Facebook posts. You know, like, so okay, so we do this activity together. Like I tag you, you tag me, and we arrive to more people. And then what we try to do always like to collaborate with them in like other kind of events or activities. So this way, like what we do is to establish these links, to build this trust, let's say, to be able to do more things like related to the goal that we want together in the future. So I don't know, like to give you some examples, like for the town hall. So we say like, okay, so we will collaborate with you in this film festival, or giving English lessons in the library, or like in this marathon. And then like you tell them like, okay, so we have this number of volunteers, we can help you with that. And then in exchange, like you can help me with that. And well, like in general, this works very, very well. For example, like just like some weeks ago with Oceanicos, we went with them, like with many volunteers and like other people from here from the village. We went to help them in an event that they had organized. And in exchange, another day they gave us like the equipment to go snorkeling. And thanks of having like this equipment, we could like take pictures and then send it to analysts. We see it doing a research project. So at the end it's more like a change, you know, and it's like helping each other. Well, this is another part I was like mentioning before, is like how to involve the local community. And well, this is like some examples that how we do that. The first one is like trying that all the activities, all the events that we do, that we organize, people can see it in the village. So like we try to print for posters, stick it around, stick it in like public places, and everyone is aware about what the volunteers are doing. Then here I have this picture is about like posting also. This is very important on social media nowadays. So like posting in like Facebook groups of the village. This is Gente Comarrugas. It's like people from Comarruga, from the village where we act, and we publish there like all the activities that we do. Another one can be, for example, like beach cleanings, because this is, for example, is an activity that people is willing to do. Like if you say that we're gonna clean the beach, normally there is gonna be a lot of people who are willing to participate. And once we are there with them and that they join us, sorry. So there we can do other kind of workshops. We can give them like some information about like the projects that are going on and how to participate in other activities, or some like results of the projects. That it happens the same like here. This is, for example, like an activity that we do as like Glovers in the library, and we have like this activity every week. So what we did in order to learn to know about, for example, like Posidonia or like marine conservation, is like in one of these English activities, we prepared an activity related to this topic. So it's a way of also like using like other activities that we have in the organization to let them like arrive on this like other related topic. And of course, like with youngsters and with kids, like with the schools, it's also very important because, as I mentioned before, like they are the ones who will act in the future. Well, this is the last part, is like how to make a project like long-term sustainable. And well, it's like, it's kind of like a sum up of everything. First of all would be like, to establish like clear objectives, like what you want to do, what do you want to achieve, to which kind of like value you want to arrive. Super important, as I mentioned before, like collaborate with our projects, collaborate with organizations, with town hall, because if you join forces, you will arrive much farther. Involve the community, super important. Educate, because it has to arrive to other people. And last but not least, like evaluate, like also like during your projects, also like at the end of the projects, like it's also very important always to evaluate like what you are doing, how you're doing, to which kind of people is arriving, is everything arriving in a good way, the information, and how can we improve in the future for the next time. And that's it more or less. So well, this was more or less like our experience with these kind of projects. If you have any kind of questions, just like let me know, and I will try to answer.
Great, thanks so much, Paula. Can I just say, like, I think it's really interesting, your approach to designing those projects. Like, it's a very strong like community development style approach. I really love the way that on the surface, you're doing projects on coastal protection and conservation and citizen science, but like kind of at a deeper level, what they're achieving is kind of their community building exercises, and you're using volunteers as links between different institutions to create those partnerships and kind of do more together on shared exercises. So I just think that is really a fantastic demonstration of what the project and volunteer and like using volunteers like that can achieve. And it's really it's in synergy exactly with you know, the mission targets in terms of social inclusion, in terms of working across EU member states and everything like that. So no, thank you. I just wanted to ask you a quick question actually.
Yeah,
How do you go about finding volunteers for your projects? And like, do they tend to be mainly local, or you know, is that a difficulty you have, or you know, is there many that tend to engage?
yeah, I mean, it's not an easy it's not an easy thing always, of course, because like there are many people who are willing to volunteer, you know, like they tell you like, oh yeah, I want to participate in this and this, but when it arrives the time at the end, like, or they are not there, or they don't appear. And in the beginning, like, especially, it's it's not easy, you know, like we try that there are many local people who engage. But then on the other hand, we also like have with long-term volunteering, with short-term volunteers, we have volunteers also in the organization. So at the end, like we combine the volunteers that we have with other volunteers from the local community, with other volunteers from the PREP. So it's a mix at the end of everything. Okay,
no, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks very much. So please, everybody, if anyone has any further questions, you can keep putting them into the Q&A. Just maybe while we're waiting and before we finish up, I might just kind of wrap up the whole series in general. First of all, thank you so much to Suzanne and Paula for coming here today and just giving us some really interesting and really helpful information. I think it would be fantastic to see some projects come out of today, thinking about how to you know, engaging with the European Solidarity Corps into applications, or thinking about it for future initiatives in terms of you know, even small scale initiatives in terms of gathering more people and a wider you know, reach in terms of social inclusion and everything to the initiatives. Sarah, would you mind just putting our survey link in the chat to everybody there? Just one more time, guys. I mean, I think whether or not everybody in the audience today is thinking about large scale funding applications over the summer, or whether you're dealing with smaller initiatives, we will be doing more training like this in autumn and spring next year. And so what we'd really like to know is just how to make it as useful to you guys as possible. So if there's anything in terms of, you know, follow-on training to help you engage with citizens in marine and freshwater projects, in terms of, you know, engaging with Mission Ocean, or if you have any questions, the survey in the chat it's a 2-minute survey. There's about 3 questions in it, and mainly I think we're interested in hearing from you about what we can do to better help you work in this space. But so look, thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed the series, and I hope it's been useful for anyone who are working on funding applications in the immediate term. Good luck, and please reach out if you have any questions that we can help you with. We'll try our best to direct them and to answer them. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, I don't think we have any more coming into the Q&A. So I'll just say thanks one more time to our facilitators and to my co-host Sarah. You've been brilliant help throughout this whole thing. And yeah, look, we'll everybody have a nice summer, and we'll be in touch again soon. And thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
See you later, everybody.
See you.
Bye-bye.